With the NFL draft fast approaching, the trade rumors are heating up. Could a Lamar Jackson extension be in the works and happen sooner rather than later? And a former Baltimore Ravens player goes home. All this and more coming up now. But first, Ravens flock, let's fly. All right, Ravens flock, we are less than a week away from the NFL draft. By this time next week, we will know what the Baltimore Ravens have done in the first round, and there will be no more speculating, no more mock drafts, no more what position are the Ravens going to take in the first round. Now, there has been speculation, there's been a lot of talk online if the Ravens should go BPA or if they should go need specific. And the question was raised, what if a wide receiver is the best player available at 27? Should the Ravens go take an explosive player at the wide receiver position, even though we have Zay and Bateman and Devontae Walker in the midst? And then we just signed DeAndre Hopkins. So wide receiver is not a position of need, but of course, there's always a need to upgrade certain positions and bring in the best players possible. But if there seems to be a choice between a wide receiver or a safety or an edge guy, which way do you think that the Ravens are going to lean? Me personally, they're always going to go defense. First round, defense, cornerback, safety, edge rusher. They're going to take somebody to fortify this defense. Ravens are a long-standing defensive team, and they kind of took a dip last season, and they don't want that to happen again because a lot of people do believe that defense wins championships. But if that wide receiver becomes available, do we add another weapon to give to Lamar just in case somebody gets hurt, just in case somebody goes down or may not be the player that they used to be? And if you've seen my videos and you know me, I am always for the wide receiver position. But this year, I'm not for certain. I rather personally would want the Ravens to go offensive line, shore up those guys up front, open holes to Derrick Henry, protect Lamar Jackson, because we don't want a repeat of 2021 and 2022. But there is a scenario that I guess just came about, maybe it's been about, but it has been reiterated. And they were talking to the Miami Dolphins general manager, and he said, hey, listen, for the right price, Tyreek Hill may be available. We're not shopping him right now, but if you gave the right compensation, we may let him go. If you remember at the end of last season, after the season finale, exactly, Tyreek Hill was like, I'm out, I'm done, I can't take this anymore. I need to focus on my legacy, my family, and everything that is surrounding and has to do with Tyreek Hill. And for most Ravens fans, they're going to say he has a checkered past. There's no way he could become a Baltimore Raven. And the price might be too much. The general manager said, listen, if somebody offered us 2 first-round picks, we'd definitely trade him. I don't think that it would take that much compensation for a team to acquire Tyreek Hill and his services. And before you say we don't need him, we have wide receivers. We have wide receivers, but we don't have wide receivers like Tyreek Hill. We don't have any wide receiver that can catch a 5-yard slant and be gone in 60 seconds. Back in 2022, the Dolphins acquired Hill for a first round, a second rounder, 2 fourths, and a sixth. I don't think that it would take that much to get him because the two sides may be at an impasse on where the future lies for both of them. I think Tyreek Hill is soured on having Tua Tagovailoa be his quarterback, being that his health situation, he's not really that accurate when it comes to the playoffs, playing in cold weather. You come to Baltimore, you come play with Lamar Jackson, you can play in any kind of weather. He knows Lamar can get him the ball, and there is enough to go around for everybody. And then you just take outside of the draft picks, you look at what possibly the Miami Dolphins need. The Miami Dolphins need defensive line help. They need edge help. They need a tight end. And just so happens the Ravens have a tight end that might be available. So if you package a second round pick, some of the 20-something 4th through 6th round picks that the Ravens have, and you give them that bona fide stud Mark Andrews, who'd say no? And I'm not saying it would be a done deal, but if you give them a position of need along with a few draft picks, it could be done. Now, absorbing that cap hit for Tyreek Hill may be a bit much, but I didn't hear any of you guys talking about that when it came to Jalen Ramsey. When it came to Jalen Ramsey, it was like, let's do it. Let's go for it. He is an upgrade over Brandon Stevens, 100%. And yeah, he had a down year last year. Pretty much everybody on the Miami Dolphins had a down year last year. A lot of injuries to go around, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of players that just didn't play up to expectation. But for me, the difference in what Jalen Ramsey will bring to this team versus what Tyreek Hill will bring to this team is apples and oranges. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey could come in and be CB1, quite possibly. But you take a home run threat, you take a guy that can score a touchdown damn near anytime he touches the ball. It is worth that money to me. The speed that Tyreek Hill possesses, you cannot replicate that. There is not too many guys in the league, and it's probably not even 5 that can reach the top end speed that Tyreek Hill can make. You add that with the speed of Lamar Jackson, you add that with the power and speed of Derrick Henry. Who is going to stop this team? Then you move Isaiah Likely up to tight end number 1. Nobody's going to stop us. And defensively, they won't have to create turnovers. They won't have to do as much because the Ravens will be scoring a lot of points. But of course, these are all just pipe dreams. These are just scenarios that are being thrown about. And, fans can hope, fans can wish. We'll just have to see what happens before the draft and possibly during the draft as well, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we could package a deal with Odafe Owe. Maybe there is some friction going on between him and the front office, and they can't come to terms on a long-term deal, so the Ravens may be willing to move on with him. Dolphins need an edge as well. So whomever you want, make your choice, get a couple draft picks, and move on. And then going into the 2025 season, the Ravens have a bevy of draft picks. They have a few free agents that they picked up, but they don't have a lot of money to spend on bringing in a bunch of other people. And one way for the Ravens to create some cap room is an extension on Lamar Jackson. There's been some talks about the Ravens need to extend Lamar sooner rather than later to free up that money so that they can add some depth to this team. They can get some pieces in case some guys go down. They can bring in, there's still a few guys out there that can contribute to the team. There are a few pieces out there that can still be starters in this league. Me personally, I think that they should give Lamar Jackson his extension right now, just because we've learned from the past that the Ravens wait a little bit too long. Other guys get signed, the salaries start to go up, and now you have to pay more than you would have if you would have gotten the deal done earlier. Now, Josh Allen just signed a 6-year, $330 million extension with $250 million guaranteed. So that is going to raise the bar for the extension for Lamar Jackson. Are you going to wait for somebody else to get signed? Are you going to wait for these other teams that also need cap room to go in and extend their quarterbacks for big money? Don't forget that Brock Purdy needs a deal, so he may possibly push that quarterback market even more. So just set the parameters for the deal. Give Lamar either money between Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, or give him more than Dak Prescott, because push comes to shove, eventually they're going to be pushing $60 million a year on a Lamar Jackson extension. And the Ravens, in my personal opinion, should not wait around till that price goes even higher, because what's going to happen is the same thing that's happening now, the same thing that happened with Joe Flacco. It's fine in the early years, but then later on, that cap hit is going to skyrocket dramatically. As of right now, Lamar Jackson has a $74 million cap hit going into next season. And if we can't afford his $46 million cap hit this year, we're not going to be able to afford it next. And speaking of Lamar Jackson, even when the NFL is quiet, even when there's not a whole bunch of news going on around the league, it's only a bunch of draft talks and speculated trades, people just can't seem to not talk about Lamar Jackson. They cannot keep his name out of their mouths. And hilariously to me, the Cleveland Browns GM decided, he was doing a press conference and he was talking about certain things. And he said, yeah, we're in the market to get the next Lamar Jackson. There is a guy out there in the draft, Jalen Milroe, who may be faster than Lamar Jackson. And so what if he is? What does that have to do with the Cleveland Browns? Why are you talking about Lamar Jackson and comparing these college kids to him? There is no other Lamar Jackson. He is one of one. And yes, he may be faster, but do you think he's going to reach the levels that Lamar has? It's quite possible, but highly unlikely. And to me, I think you need to worry more about the Cleveland Browns and what you guys have going on. Because since you have re-entered the league in 1999, the Browns have had 40 starting quarterbacks. Not 40 quarterbacks on their roster. They've had 40 different quarterbacks start a game for them. So if you decide to pick Milroe, good for you. Don't worry about us, because the Ravens are going to do what they have to do. Lamar Jackson is going to continue to get better and break even more records. And you can just hope that your next quarterback, whomever he may be, can be half of what Lamar Jackson is. And this all goes to show you that Lamar Jackson is just front page news, because even when nobody's talking about him, even when he has nothing to do with the conversation, guys just tend to bring him up. And if you have not heard the news by now, Tre'Davious White has gone back to Buffalo. He's gone back home to the team that drafted him in the first round, the team where he was an all-pro, for a $6 million deal. Now, a lot of Ravens fans are saying, I see why the team now signed Awuzie, because they just were not going to shell out that money for the former Ravens cornerback. But to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, $6 million for a starting corner, possibly, it's not a bunch of money. But if Tre'Davious White was as good as you guys say he was, if he solidified the cornerback position like guys talked about, why would he not be worth $6 million? And you understand now why they brought in a Awuzie. Why is it that we always have to go with the cheaper option? If Tre'Davious White is as good as you said, what is the difference? Why are we so worried about the money instead of worried about bringing in players that are going to make a difference on this team? Why are we always worried about going with the safer, cheaper option instead of going with the better player? And I mean, personally, I don't think that Tre'Davious was the better player. I don't think that he was worth $6 million. But from hearing you guys all last season, you said he was good. You said he was an upgrade from Brandon Stevens. Brandon Stevens got $12 million a year. So if he was an upgrade from him, why wouldn't he be worth half of that money? Maybe just because you guys really didn't think he was that good. And it's okay. We all make mistakes. I knew he wasn't that good watching him play in Buffalo, watching before they released him. Now he is a year healthier, but he is a little bit older. So now we'll just wait and see what the Ravens do in the first round of next week's draft. And hopefully it's not a cornerback.